Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, I would like to talk about non-decreasing array. Non-decreasing means increasing or flat, like the bar chart here. And for simplicity, we'll write nums low index versus num high index. So we are looking from left to right. And this question provides you a nums array with n integers. Ask you to check if it could become non-decreasing by modifying at most one element. How can we do that? Here the question says an array is non-decreasing if nums I less than or equal to nums I plus 1. It means when nums I larger than nums I plus 1, then it's decreasing. And in this case, we need to change either nums I or nums I plus 1. The question here is that when nums I greater than nums I plus 1, therefore it's decreasing, should we change nums I or nums I plus 1, but not both? For simplicity, when we change, we do the following minimum change. Either nums I equal to nums I plus 1 or nums I plus 1 equal to nums I. Here are four cases when nums I greater than nums I plus 1. 4 is larger than 2. These four cases differ because the nums I minus 1 and nums I plus 2 are different. You may pause this video to read the differences in details. Basically, there are two conditions. 1. Nums I minus 1 less than or equal to nums I plus 1. In this condition, we may change nums I equal to nums I plus 1 and still maintaining a non-decreasing order. The other condition is when nums I here 4 less than or equal to nums I plus 2. In this condition, we may change nums I plus 1 to be the same as nums I and still maintaining a non-decreasing order. And to mitigate the problem when nums I minus 1 or nums I plus 2 does not exist, we add negative infinity to the head and positive infinity to the tail. Basically, when nums I minus 1 less than or equal to nums I plus 1, we update nums I. In contrast, when nums I less than or equal to nums I plus 2, then we update nums I plus 1. That is, if you want to change a number, you need to make sure the previous and the next of this number altogether will be in non-decreasing order. With all the background introduced, now let's write the code. The basic idea is to use a for loop to iterate through nums array. So the length of num minus 1. And in each iteration, we want to test if there's a decreasing condition occur. It's decreasing, so it means it needs modification. And what kind of modification can we provide? So there are two conditions. If nums I minus 1 less or equal to nums I plus 1, condition 1. In this condition, we know we can provide the modification as nums I equal to nums I plus 1. Okay, modification type 1. Else, if nums I less or equal to nums I plus 2, this is condition 2, we know we can provide the modification as I plus 1 equal to nonce I, and still maintaining that non-decreasing order. If these two conditions, if neither of them works, we know we cannot find that at most one modification will return false here. And if going through this, we are able to meet at this one of the two conditions. We know we modify it, so modify equal to true. So before that, we have this modify equal to false. And if at the next iteration, if modify is already true, we know we cannot modify it again. It needs the second modification here, and we cannot do it because we can have only at most one modification. And if by the end of the day, it goes through all the for loop, it either does not need modification or just one modification, then will return true. And before we submit this, let's check for some boundary conditions. First, we will add the head and tail into a nonce array. So negative infinity and positive infinity. And we also want to start with 1 because this 1 minus 1 is 0. Otherwise, it will be exceeding the range. Also, this will be minus 2 because when this I iterate up to length minus 3 and plus 2, it can get at most the length minus 1. So it's still within the nonce array range. And that's our code. So let's test this. We submit, pending, and done. 148 milliseconds. It's faster than 93% of other submission. Very good. Finally, we'll analyze the code for complexity. So it has a time complexity O(n), since we do a single for loop here. And it has a space complexity O1, because we modified nonce array in place and order I modify those variables are constant space variable. Okay, so that's all for this code. I hope you find this video to be useful. Please subscribe and stay tuned for more videos. So see you next time. Goodbye.